All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the flex session for the Office of Institutional Effectiveness. Just to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of what we do here. Ultimately, we work on, majority of your data needs. Some of our responsibilities include, conducting research, providing reports, supporting any type of institutional planning and accountability. We also assist with facilitating data-driven decision-making and enhancing student learning and institutional effectiveness. Uh, there's a few areas where we primarily, when you head to our OIE page, one will be technically what you will be going for your data and research request. You'll find that on our left reading pane, where it talks about our data and research requests that we have. Our data request form is if you need an update to like particularly a Cognos report, a Tableau dashboard that you're utilizing, or just want to see something created for you regarding any of those items, you can always come here and fill out our data request form. To conduct research on Bakersfield College students or employees, we do have our BC Institutional Review Board, where you can use as well. A couple of the things that we support: institutional planning, accountability. We assist with accreditation support. Any sort of college initiatives you have, student success, you want to be able to measure the success of a specific program, department. You can go ahead and reach out to us for a data request or even a Tableau dashboard. We will help with your student learning outcomes and assessments. We will also help you with any sort of program review or administrative unit review. So if you have a program review where you're being asked to, itemize specific services that your department is offering, as long as those services are, coded within particularly like a, Banner, Starfish, or any one of the myriad of various programs that we have here, we can assist you with itemizing that, with going ahead and doing a review of it. And so ultimately, if you do have program review items that you need to deliver, we can assist with that as well. We assist with matriculation and enrollment strategies, and also grants and institutional funding. So if you have a grant that you're applying for where you need data in order to support that, you can always fill out our data request form. And that is just by, you can basically Google Bakersfield College, Office of Institutional Effectiveness, and all you'll want to do is you'll want to head over to our left reading pane right here and fill out a data request form. So we're going to cover a few data dashboards with you. But one of the main things that sometimes when it comes to data, it can definitely seem a little bit intimidating. And so one of the things that I want to show you is our Renegade scorecard. A Renegade scorecard is a great place to start if you kind of like, you have a question, or maybe you just kind of want to just dive a little bit onto some, high level overview of the data. We have things like our student profiles. This includes things like headcount, equity groups, pathway and program information, educational goal, unit load. We have information on financial aid, FTEs by course type, and the high school yield. All this information is placed onto basically charts that you can navigate within the BC website and hover over it to get additional information. You also have information on pathways. So in the event that you're working with supporting a specific pathway, supporting a specific department, you can kind of use this to determine, hey, how many students are going to be part of my outreach process, and kind of use that to formulate your question when you submit your data requests. So we have our student profile, which is going to have a lot of your enrollment trends. It's going to have your demographic data, your unit load distribution, and financial aid statistics. That's a really interesting one, especially if you're kind of wanting to see the types of aid that is available at our campus. We also have our various equity groups that we can show. We have also our student success, where you can go into and you can actually dive a little bit deeper into our data, including institution set standards, awards by type. So you can take a look at, the various types of awards, whether that be certificates of completion or associate's degrees, or even bachelor's degrees. You have your momentum points is also here. And then you also have your institutional planning. So if you do have institutional planning, like our fast facts, or if you want to just kind of get a high level overview of different services that we offer, also including employment trends, that is all also here as well. You can take a look at our CESI key findings from the last time we did the CESI survey. We will be conducting the CESI survey again this year, so this will actually have new information once we collect that and begin analyzing it. For us, we typically use the Renegade scorecard to just provide summarized information for you. So you can use it to, identify areas for enhancement. You can use it to kind of support any sort of data-driven decisions, leading to improved student outcomes. Other than that, the Renegade scorecard, it is available on our Bakersfield College website, which you can go ahead and you can find here. But that's really kind of one of the big things that I want to talk about regarding the Renegade scorecard is we are making a really huge update to it. Right now, we're leveraging a program that we're going to be moving over into Tableau. So each one of these dashboards that you're seeing right here are all going to be moved over to Tableau, and it's going to allow for additional insight, deeper levels of data. But again, if there is an area right here on the Renegade scorecard that you're saying, I'd be really interested, how come this isn't present? Reach out. This is something that we would definitely love to help you with, so you can definitely get more focus on any type of programs that you're supporting, department, affinity groups, or student attributes.
Alexander, you said you're moving over to Tableau. We also have it accessible here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It'll actually be embedded on our page. All right. So definitely the Renegade scorecard is a great place, a great jumping off point. But one of the really big things that we're really excited to share with y'all is a bit of the data dashboards that we support here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and go there. So on your left reading pane, you're going to have a few of the items that we support. But one of the big things that we want to share with you are our data dashboards. From our data dashboards, you can head to our current CCD data dashboard portals. This is going to be specific to all of our sister colleges, which includes like Saracoso and Porterville. Occasionally, you will even get some students that are part of our CVC exchange program. But these are all the dashboards that are housed by our district office. However, if you're really looking for something specific, we have our data dashboards that we have here. And so we're actually going to be updating this page, but ultimately, right here is where we house all our data dashboards. If you click on any one of those, you can kind of take a look at, the various types of metrics that are completely targeted towards our BC students. And one of the really big things that I'm excited to share with you all today. So each one of us as analysts, we're going to be sharing with you a bit of the dashboards that we work on and show you kind of like, how they can be utilized. The dashboard that I'll be sharing with you today will be our student services dashboard. Now, what's great about student services dashboard is this is actually going to, this is kind of our demonstration, our demo version of the student services dashboard. I'm really excited about this because it's going to have information that goes at an award year. So for the first time, on our dashboards, you're going to have access to information like financial aid. You're going to have access to information like basic needs. You'll be able to see how the direct impact that basic needs has. I don't want to do the little thing with smartboard. And then also, of course, the various attributes that we have. You're able to see the changing as far as the 8 years, and you're able to see how many courses have yet to be graded. So maybe there's an instance where you want to see, like, as far as courses that haven't been graded from the fall term, courses that haven't been graded for the spring. You can find all that information here. So for instance, by clicking onto that, you'll be able to see, hey, as of right now, this data is actually from December. We'll be moving to having this updated on a weekly basis, but ultimately you'll be able to look at how many grades we don't have. And you'll also be able to divvy it by demographic information, academic information. So that includes things like modality, course ID. You'll also be able to look at financial aid. And also one of the big updates is our basic needs. And then finally, attributes. So you can look at things with a specific program and see how successful your students are. Basically, the way that we divvy each of these areas is we have it set by student success. That means that they actually received a seat or higher. We have it by retained, which means that they made it to census. We don't blend the two because ultimately success in how we view it is that the student actually passed the class and they're good to go. Retained means that they made it to census. And then an unsuccessful outcome means that they didn't pass the class and ended up with a grade lower than a C. Pretty soon with this dashboard, we're going to be including information, not just from missing grades, but we're also going to be including information regarding financial aid data. You'll be able to look at the various types of aid that we're dispersing. So in the event that you wanted to, if you have a student that reaches out to you and they say, hey, when are funds getting paid out? You'll be able to see all that information that's there based on the scheduled disbursement date. The student services dashboard is something that I'm really excited to share because ultimately you're going to be able to take a look at our courses as a whole. You'll be able to divvy them up by the impact of, what impact does it translate to success when it comes to students utilizing basic needs? What impact does it have when students are part of the current promise program or any other types of programs? So what I would, ultimately encourage you to do is, take a look at it, go through the various filters that we have and try to see like, hey, I'm wondering what this program, what type of impact does it have with our students currently? And what's really great, if your program particularly has like a lot of history, you're going to be able to see just about, the trends that you've seen from year over year. That's really a high level overview of the student services dashboard. And so what I'll go ahead and do is we're good as far as questions on the Zoom, yeah? And
yeah, we're good.
We're good. No, you're good, man. And then other than that, I'm going to go ahead and let Jacob, man, you want to take it away? All right. Hopefully it doesn't restart in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacob Rodriguez, another research analyst in OIE. And so today I'll be going over 2 different dashboards. And yeah, thank you, Lysander, for going over the student services dashboard. The 2 that we'll be going over are what we call the weekly enrollment report, which will get a name change, and I'll explain why. And then as well as the guided pathway momentum points dashboard, which has been, I think, called out and utilized over the last couple of years. This weekly enrollment report dashboard is a new report that was actually an internal Tableau report that needed a Tableau license that we then converted into a public version for anyone to utilize that is interested in things like enrollment, the full-time equivalent student or faculty numbers, and as well as things like distinct CRN. One thing that I did want to call out is, Lysander was going over, is that all these dashboards are constantly being updated. If things don't seem, out of place or things seem out of place or incorrect, always please reach out and let us know. It might be a technical Tableau issue. It might be an actual data issue. And, that just enables us to go and look into it, as we're not looking at each dashboard on a day-to-day basis. I call that out because these 2 line items here should actually be removed, as they were previously included, but we since removed from the public version of this dashboard. So this front page needs to be updated. The other quick thing I want to call out is that, we are trying to include as much information and documentation on different metrics that we have on each of the dashboards. So, each dashboard will try to add, this information at the start of it. Then you can go through and, click through the Tableau dashboard and, dig into it. So this, again, dashboard primarily focuses on enrollment trends by term. for each year for all of BC and then by subject to be able to compare against BC as a whole. This is for the last 5 years. I did want to call out that all the previous completed terms are finalized numbers, and current and future terms are, as of the last report date found here. And then for the FTES, FTEF, and then the ratio that we have for the proportion of the full-time equivalent students to faculty. The current term, which is spring 25, and future terms, which would be summer 25, are calculated using a formula. So those are estimates and not finalized values. So if we go here, there's 2 different tabs on this report. Both show essentially the same thing. This first tab is in a chart form. So we see here that we have the different metrics. We have a distinct CRN count by subject and then by BC, total enrollment, the full-time equivalent student, full-time equivalent faculty, and then the full-time equivalent student to faculty ratio. And so it might seem a lot on the left side for subject, but that's because we want to enable the user to filter down as needed. So let's say that and in particular, we'll go down if we notice this huge spike on this one subject. So if you hover over this point, it says that the subject's actually for the CAD-M subject, which I always forget the proper name. And again, because it's such a large spike compared to the rest of the data. Oh, excuse me. So I apologize. I have my volume on full blast, but I wasn't able to hear if there was a comment. If you guys have a question, can you please reach out to the chat? We do have someone from OIE, looking at the questions and at the chat. I apologize for that. But excuse me, we're going to look at the subject for this CAD-M, which is correctional administration. And so being able to filter down to the subject, we can see what is driving this large spike. And so we see here that the proportion for the full-time equivalent student to faculty ratio actually looks a little misleading. If I were to go to the next page, I'll show you why. We'll break that down. But essentially, if you filter by subject, you can compare any one of the subjects, performance annually in terms of the CRN counts, enrollment, to BC overall. And so if you want to compare, like, how are we trending otherwise? And so actually we'll pick a different subject, a little bit.
Communication.
Yeah.
Go down. There you go.
We do communications.
That's mine.
No, of course. Yeah, thank you for calling it out. So looking at communication, we see that, over time, we've been adding a lot of CRNs, as well as the full-time equivalent student has been trending up, but has slightly declined. And again, this is an estimate because it's a spring 25. So this is not a finalized value, but we have seen since 22 that trend going up. So there are more full-time equivalent students taking communication courses. And then we also see that the enrollment for these courses as well has been going up in that same time period. Compared to, for example, BC overall, which matches the current term, the previous terms, but the current term as of today, is slightly lower for the spring 25, but communication says, slightly, actually, yeah, this 343 is 307. So yes, on the same trend as BC, just slightly different from last term. The great thing about this is, let's say you had a similar subject. What's a good comparable subject to COM that you might want to compare with? I don't want to equivocate English. Yeah. So we see here, total enrollment for English is actually down quite a bit for spring 25 from spring 24, which is interesting because there's only a slight decrease for communication, but that overall trend for English matches, the BC overall enrollment trend to date. Again, this is as of the report date of Monday. The other tab, so this is kind of high level, just visually being able to see the trend lines for different subjects. Again, there's legends for you to compare the color scale on the left The other tab on this report is actually just a table version of the charts that just is provided to give other users a different view of the data that prefer a table format. There is one additional functionality to this tab here, is that we're able to also break it down by course. And the reason why this isn't added on the chart version is because that would, multiply quite a bit the number of lines that we see on the charts. So this is a great tool if you have specific questions by course level to compare for, again, the distinct CRN counts for each term, the number of enrollments, which would just be the distinct head count for each term, or actually not distinct head count, excuse me. We're also planning on adding head count to this report in a future update. And so, yeah, that would show similar numbers to total enrollment, but because this is aggregated, this is not by CRN. So this is total enrollment by course ID. And again, that enables you to compare the FTES, FTEF by the different courses. If that's some insight you're trying to look at to see, are we allocating staff, resources, whatever the case may be, appropriately to courses that need it the most. And again, the top table just shows the BC metrics overall to enable you to, compare any of these metrics against. And yeah, so again, if there are any, and so on the Monday session, there were some additional questions of, could we add some additional filters to this? And so we are planning on enhancing this and making sure that filters are standardized and can be, found on all of our different Tableau dashboards, relevant filters, I should say. Was there any questions, Lysander, on the weekly enrollment report? So this is a public version, as I mentioned, that's updated weekly. For program managers, deans, and chairs, though there is an internal Tableau version that requires a Tableau license. And so if there are additional questions with that, please reach out to OIE and we can review that separately. The other dashboard that, again, I want to call out was the guided pathway momentum points dashboard. Previously, this has received just a visual update, I would say, but the content of the dashboard is still the same. We do have, different metrics that we're focusing on. And again, because there's no info page, we are wanting to add that to call out some of the distinct features of this dashboard. Primarily is that this dashboard focuses on first-time students, but first-time students when they're considered a non-special admit. And so that changes the definition slightly from like a traditional first-time student. And so that's why we'll include a front page to make sure that that's properly labeled and defined. Whoops, please restart later. And the main feature I wanted to call out, if you were to go to any of these metrics, which we focus on, English and math attempt and completion in the first year, English in the first year, math in the first year, the number of units attempted by different periods, was the Golden 4 completed, the persistence rate, which we look at persistence from fall to spring and then fall to fall, degree completion and transfer rate. All these metric tabs will have the same parameters and filters, which is what I wanted to go over and navigate. So a parameter typically is something that modifies the chart and does not filter it. So what do I mean by this? So we have a parameter here that says select demographic group. And basically what this means is we're able to break down this chart here by one of these different categories. So particularly if you want to see the student headcount by the learning career pathway, which is something that, again, is available on the Renegade scorecard, but it's not, again, a one-to-one exact replication. We can see that here by selecting the learning career pathway group, and we see that the headcount is now broken out, by those different career pathways. And, this enables you to compare the different groups. There's another filter here that relates to this demographic group. So whatever you select here on this group will be found in this filter. So again, looking at just demographic groups or the learning career pathway, let's say we want to compare business and STEM. total head count. So we're able to filter down, just focus in on these two different pathways to see the difference in total head counts year over year. So let me go ahead and filter this back. And change this back to all first-time students. We have other parameters also that, again, focus on the EOPS different lists that include CalWORKs, CARE, EOPS, and Next Up. Also included are current promise participants, finish in 4, transfer in 2, transfer promise, and current promise. So if we were to click on one of these, actually this should have been a parameter and broken it down by those that are in current promise and those that are not. So I'll have to, again, research that. And as people utilize these dashboards and find things that, seem out of place, this is, again, the great opportunity to call out and for OIE to research and investigate and troubleshoot. There are default filters applied to this dashboard in particular. One is that we only look at the records that do not have a fraud hold status. And so if we want to include that to see total head count, we can, but we typically recommend to just look at those that do not have that fraud hold status. And then by default, we are excluding Rising Scholar students to the initial view. But if you wanted to look at specifically the Rising Scholar students or include them, you can simply add that as well. But we will leave that as a default. Like the student services dashboard, we do try to include as much filters as we can relating to, like the affinity groups, which we can click and show, demographic filters related to, let me scroll over, to different ethnicity filters as well as age group and gender. The affinity groups have, filters such as, are they in the MESA program, ASAM, are they athletes, veterans, and so on. And then also, like in the student services dashboard, different student attributes, ed plan, ed goal, specific learning career pathway, and then program. And so, be able to have all these filters enables you to really drill down and look at what is the first time, student head count for our veterans that are in, business, because let's say we want to expand outreach to different business courses for our veterans. We're able to, dig deep and see, okay, well, trending up slightly through fall 2020, but since, that fall 2020, the COVID pandemic, that number has really declined. And these are really small populations, so it's kind of hard to say, an actual trend, but this just gives you a way to drill down and, look at that data as needed. There are some concerns we are going to address, like data suppression, to make sure that, populations that should not be identified individually, like with really small numbers, are removed or at least hidden from, the dashboards as needed. So that's something that another update will be adding to our future updates. And again, because the guided pathway momentum points dashboard has been a staple of OIE, I won't really spend much time in the other tabs unless there was something else in particular that someone wants to look at or dig into. But again, a lot of these metrics focus on, did they complete their transfer level English and math? Actually, I will call out here. So there's a by first year chart at the top, and then there's in their first year. So the two charts are technically different. By first year includes courses if a student was considered a special admit. So this will include, AP courses that came in that considered as credit for their, first year transfer level English and math. And then in their first year specifically, as soon as they start, so of the fall 2023 cohort, by their first year, which would be fall and spring, 10% completed, their first year transfer level English and math course. So that's different than those that completed by their first year, which may have done it prior to their, first fall cohort term, fall 23. And so the by first year and in first year are only found in the English and math combined, just English, and then just math. I just want to quickly call that out. But again, as we add a front page with details, definitions of the metrics, that'll be a lot more clear to avoid, having to discern the difference yourself. And so, this is something that has a lot of metrics that, again, can be found in the Renegade scorecard. The definition's slightly different than what's found there, but OIE is, again, working to update the Renegade scorecard and then also update our Tableau dashboards to ensure we're having similar or specific definitions and make sure it's called out as needed. Sorry, I feel like I was looking at my computer the whole time. Are there any questions or comments regarding either of the two dashboards, specifically, any drill downs that they wanted to see? Again, these are on the Tableau public website. So if I go back to our OIE webpage, which again, we will be updating, and actually in our future updates, we'll be embedding these on the webpage to avoid having to go to the Tableau public site. But if you go to the OIE website, to the data dashboards, initially we were going to list out each one individually, but we're going to update that. So if you were to just click on one of these dashboards, you'll be sent here, and then you can click on the author, which is Bakersfield College OIE. And again, that's where it takes you to all the other dashboards that OIE is currently maintaining and offering. And again, as I mentioned, some may be out of date, some may not have the similar format as the others, but we're constantly trying to make sure we update over time as we can. Small team with a lot of requests, so we're doing our best.
One of the questions that came up, Jacob, was regarding if they want to schedule an appointment with an analyst, to kind of cover your reports, what would be the best way to do that? Yeah,
and actually I realized we did not pull up the PowerPoint. So yeah, we do encourage anyone with any questions about anything data related that OIE can assist in. So this includes, navigating the dashboards with like a more in-depth session individually. So if you wanted to do that or just have any other data questions, we do have office hours on Tuesdays, 4:30 to 5, by appointment. So you can reach out to any of the analysts, myself, Lysander, Sean, or Robert. We can also set up, additional training sessions as needed, and whatever help, we can assist in. So yeah, please reach out at any time and we can go ahead and set something up. But with that, if there are no additional questions, I'll transfer or hand it over to Sean, who will be going over the transfer pathways dashboard and highlighting some of the key features there. You're on Google Chrome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Nickel. I'm a data scientist with BC and KCCD. And today I'm just going to briefly discuss one of our newer, less utilized dashboards called the Transfer Pathways dashboard. So this is a dashboard of all of our, this is a dashboard of all of our transfer students here at BC. And I think that this dashboard could be a really good one for the counselors to have in their back pocket, or even our partners outside of BC. So what we're looking at here is aggregated lists of our transfer students, where they came from out of high school in the first column, their first four-year college attended after BC in the second column, and in the third column, in the third column, we have their average cumulative GPA at BC. And then in this next one, we have their average credits prior to their 4 years. So how many credits they had on average at BC. And then the count of students who attended BC and then went to any of these designated colleges. So you can see 287 right here. This one's Cal State Bakersfield, which is by far the most transferred place from BC. And so this dashboard was originally developed by our Associate Vice Chancellor of Analytics and Innovation, Craig Hayward. And I'm tasked with maintaining it and updating it. So I really want people to see the value that this dashboard can bring. I always picture, even for someone, say you're a Bakersfield high school counselor and you're interested in knowing what percentage of your students who go to BC will then transfer to CSUB. Um, and as you can see, it's the largest by far, 372, or just any of the Cal States in the Cal State system. So you can group by college type. So if we were to click all, that's CSU's, in-state private, out-of-state private, and UC systems. And you can see there's a lot more variation to the first 4 years attended. We can sort by different home colleges. We can sort by local high schools. So right now we're only looking at local high schools like Arvin High, Bakersfield Christian High, etc. But we can go ahead and select all high schools, and this will literally be any high school that any transfer student has come from. So you can see really nuanced data here. Yeah, we can sort by different high schools. We can limit it to just students who are fresh out of high school, their first 4-year term, or we can see some who have waited a little bit to come to BC. We can sort by the different LCP programs. So if you wanted to do an analysis of just STEM students or just health sciences students, you can take a look and you can see where our students are coming from, where they're going, based on their LCP program. Of course, if you are only interested in one academic term for their first term, then you can, this data goes back to spring of 2016, so you can filter it that way. You can do, you can look at ethnicity in case there's any diversity or equity questions that you have, and of course gender. And so you can really get nuanced with the data. And I'll mention a few caveats to this data set is that the only students that are going to appear in here are the ones who have selected that they would like to allow their data for use in something like this. So this isn't going to be a completely exhaustive list. What Lysander showed, the Renegade scorecard, is the exhaustive list of transfer data, but it's not obviously detailed like this. But and of course, not all students affirm that they want their data in here. And of these students, can't remember. Sorry, give me a second. There's another big caveat that I'm not remembering right now, but hopefully it'll come to me later. But I just wanted to see if maybe there was any feedback on this dashboard, how it can be used, how you guys think this might apply to your department. I mean, it is a public dashboard, so our partners at CSUs and at UCs can take a look at it and can actually provide a lot of insight in where their students are coming from, what they need to do to make these students set up best for success. If they know so many are coming from BC and so many are coming from different local high schools and things like that. So we're really just interested in spreading awareness of this dashboard and hopefully getting some feedback to see the other caveat came to me. Not all students who transfer have completed their AA or AT. So sometimes they opt not to finish out and then they choose to transfer. So that's also captured in this data as well, just as a caveat. So yeah, I'll open the floor to questions or feedback, because like I said, this isn't one of our high traffic dashboards. So we're seeing if there's a bigger interest for it. I think it provides a lot of really valuable information. So. Okay, if there's no questions, are we closing out, or Jacob, do you have anything else you'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
think,
share? Okay.
Margaret, if you want us to, one thing that we also wanted to review with the flex session was the actual request form for OIE. Mainly because, there's a few different aspects that may not seem super intuitive. So again, I kind of sped through that right there. If we go back to the OIE webpage on the left pane, there's the data and research request forms, and then the actual data request form that I just clicked on. Let me go back here. So pretty standard stuff, contact information. I'll just go ahead and fill in so we can go through. And this is not my complete email. Actually, I'll just do it real quick. At bc.com. That's a fake email.
Question 5 is option. We
No,
treat everybody equally.
yeah. And then 95 4440. So of course, general contact information, your role, do your best to classify how you see it, how you see yourself, and the goal of the research request. So whoops. Yeah, so that is required. College area and department. So this is a pretty exhaustive list that are specific to, again, just different areas and different departments. Please select, whatever you are specifically looking to look into with this data request. So if it is a specific area, click on the area, but if you are looking for some more departmental specific data, then the specific department would be preferred, even if you're affiliated with more than one area or department. And I'll just click on admissions records as an example. Research requests do require executive leadership approval. So I think there is we did turn off the approval for now, if I'm not mistaken, Lysander.
So yeah, as of right now, if you do have a research request and you for Jessica Wojciak, basically what happens is if you have Jessica Wojciak as your dean, what will happen is she actually has a list that she has, so she'll actually be able to go in there and prove it. With Dr. Jimenez, you'll need to have approval from him, whether it's from an email, and the same with Queen King. If you're unsure though, feel free to consult with Suyun and she'll be able to reach out to you once you fill out the form and just follow up with you and everything else we can do.
Yeah, so I realized the mic might be a little far, but
Generally that's going to get approved because it's going to be a research request that you thought about, and like everything, all the information that we need to get you the information that you need is there. So if you don't know that, like if you don't know they'll go over like the research question or research question or the codes for the classes that you need, then you would probably meet with one of those people, or probably Suyun, to help you develop a question. And
yeah. So again, if you
narrow it down so we can
don't have an
make sure
idea
it's fine.
of who to select, or you have questions about your research request, selecting consult with Suyun Kim, our interim dean of OIE, is the best option. Then you have things like project title, which I'll do filler. Is it a new project, a revision to a previous approved project, dashboard or report? I would kind of group that same as this
And if you
category.
select that, she's gonna look for old projects that somebody else from your department might have asked for, and then that will save us time because somebody likely has already done it.
Yeah, if there's a similar known request that was done previously in your department or area, definitely a revision to a previously approved project would be the best option to select here. If you're unsure, then new project, again, or if you have questions to a dashboard changes, I think this option also works. And then periodic review of an ongoing project, which would be things like, other dashboard items, which are routinely done, grant information, which, as Lysander mentioned, we do assist with grant data for, your grant applications, and some of those grants can, need periodic updates. So this would be the best method to select.
I got something to add to that too. It's
Oh.
also like really good to like, if you have any actual paperwork that goes with the grant, or the grantor is asking for specific things, to send that to us so we can take a look at it, and maybe there's a different way we can give them what they want that's easier. more accurate for them.
Yeah, and the comment was to add as much information, documents as you can, and that'll be on the next page, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Should be on the last page, yeah. Does your project have a specific deadline? So this will tie heavily with, like approval from leadership and, in accordance with OIE's current project load and timelines. So if there is one, please, we prefer requests that aren't super timely and, a short amount of time unless it's very urgent. Otherwise, please specify, an appropriate deadline or no deadline, which also helps OIE manage our workload. So I'll go ahead and hit no deadline. Again, you do ask a time frame for your report if there's no specific deadline. Most requests are within the term. So if we receive a new request at the beginning of the term with no deadline, they just usually say, by the end of term, we can have some results on this research request. That'd be appreciated. And so, yeah. Oh, wait. This is actually, I'm sorry, I misread this one. This is the time frame for the data you'd like to be, analyzing. So, yeah, spring, like 2020 to present is, an example of a time frame that you'd like to look at.
It also helps with years to tell us, like, I know it sounds weird with the type of year that you want, but it's like the fiscal year or like the academic year or the academic year starting this summer or.
Yeah, this is
Correct.
one of the most important fields for us, just to get the population of students that you're interested in, because that's like one of the main things we use to query is the population, so.
Yeah, if you, again, do utilize years, please specify the, year type. So is it academic year, fiscal year, calendar year? That really helps us narrow down and specify. Well, of course, if it's unclear, we'll reach out, but yeah, stating that at the beginning would be very helpful. Again, the type of research support, pretty vague. So we do things like contact lists, data visualizations, surveys, focus groups, as Lysander mentioned, program evaluation, success metrics, student demographics, actual statistical analysis between two different groups or any other, research requests that you have. And then if none of these fit, your specific goals, please select other and provide as much detail as you can. We'll just do statistical analysis, and you can't select more than one. So if you did want, student success metrics in a visualization on top of, doing an analysis, seeing if they're statistically significant or different, then that would be, you'd be able to select all three for that purpose. Research purpose, again, kind of what is the reason you're looking to submit this request, program review, student outreach, all of those different areas that one might need the data for. And again, if none of those really satisfy your needs, please select other. And again, population of interest would be any specific cohort that you want to zone in on. If you did need like all students, then please specify all students. Otherwise, specify the cohort that you're looking at.
Hello, sorry, we'll continue from my computer. Let me see if I can get my share screen up here.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. The computer we're utilizing restarted, unfortunately. System update.
I think in here, there, are you on tablet or is that? I am.
Okay, here we are.
I'll tell you honestly, I bookmarked it.
Were you at the research request form?
Yeah.
I use a lot because of the IQ and.
And you're sharing, right?
Yeah, I'm sharing. Oops. So,
Let's go to BC.
okay, stop sharing. Okay, I just want to confirm. Yeah, so again, apologize everyone who are on Zoom. The computer we're using suddenly restarted. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we're gonna speed through and we'll fill out the oops, the research request form with we'll do that. Jacob@bc.com. Please bear with me really quick while I submit all this. Builder,
And I'm like, this looks so
new project. No. 2020, 2024. Select one.
The directory is at the very bottom, but it took me a while to find it. That's.
Students. Okay, yeah, and then we were last here on question 15, research questions and or goals. So again, these would be what specific questions you had for your research request or goals. So please be very specific. So yeah, these examples of how many students successfully completed English B1A in spring 2024, disaggregated by ethnicity. Other requests could be like compare the success of these two different courses. You know, any multiple research questions that you have, please include here. How the data will be used, again, this is kind of vague in how you want to describe it, but please do your best to describe, you know, how this research request will support the advancement of BC's mission, vision, or value and values, and specific department goals and decision-making that affect the university. I should put an A. And then, will the college adversely be affected if this request is not fulfilled? So this is kind of like, is it an emergency request? Most requests, I would say, are not adversely affected, but there are some research requests like grants that, you know, affect funding for the entire institution that would directly affect the college. So you would want to select yes if you know, that's applicable. And when you do, it'll ask why. So you fill that in. Again, all this is reviewed and would be approved by leadership, either OIE or whoever you are under. And the last page after completing all the requirements, just certification, some basic notes, and you know, important things to call out about documents, the processing, the data handling, and then you know, other fine print areas, including the board policy for you know, KCCD. Like everyone else, I'm sure people just kind of understand and agree. And actually, the so I know in one version I thought we did have a file attachment to include on the research request. I know we are currently planning on upgrading our research requests to utilize Smartsheets, which I'm not, if I'm not mistaken, does give you the ability to include files in the you know, research request. So that'll be a nice upgrade. But if you do submit a research request, please submit any additional support documents to research@Bakersfield College, and then specify, you know, the research request that they should be tied to. If there is PII or personally identifiable information, please use File Express to research@Bakersfield College to, you know, submit any you know, personal data that we want securely sent through File Express. And so, yeah, you'll get a copy of your research response that you can print. Otherwise, it will be sent to research@Bakersfield College for us to review. And then within 3 to 5 business days, you will get a confirmation that we've you know, approved your request, and we'll begin you know, starting it, and unless we have any additional questions for you know, the requester prior to starting. But yeah, we did want to go over the research request because, you know, that is our main tool for receiving data requests, and wanted to make sure everyone was at least somewhat familiar with how to answer the various questions we have there. And you can also save your response. View my response. Okay. And I believe it says you can edit, but I don't know if you can. Yeah. This is just a copy of your submitted research request. So it's not able to be edited upon submission, but if there are changes, please reach out to research@Bakersfield College, and then we can, you know, update the request.
9:13.
With that, was there any other questions or comments? I'm going to stop sharing because we are on a different computer.
You know,
So we have a side question.
I thought also at 2013.
Can we get the recording to take some additional time to get through the information? In response to Charles Daramola, I believe the recording will be shared through academic technology. I'll confirm and we can reach
Now
back
maybe
out.
we won't put
It's
so many
not
miles
available
on it.
there and we can get the recording separately. And then a separate question from Irina. Since Tableau is now owned by Salesforce, is BC using Salesforce for ERP software needs?
How are things going?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that different departments utilize different software, so I can't say for certain that we are not. But as far as I'm aware, BC is not currently utilizing
Was
Salesforce.
that Birdie gonna come?
That would be great because Salesforce data is very standardized and clean. But yeah, not at the moment, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Was there any
Okay.
last questions or comments anyone had before we end the flex session? As I mentioned previously, you can always reach out to us at any time, separately or to research at Bakersfield College, and we can answer any questions as needed.
My question's kind of not personal, but I'm the OER, Open Educational Resource Liaison. So how would I find those members that would, where the courses are labeled as such?
Yeah.
Is there a textbook cost? Do I go through you, or I usually just email Suyen and say, hey, can you give me the numbers?
Yeah.
She's good about that. But is there a way for me to do it myself?
Not.
You're late, so I really apologize.
No worries. Not on any of the current dashboards. I don't believe so, but we could always enhance them or create a separate dashboard for your needs as needed.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. If there are no additional questions, we'll give you the rest of the time back. Hope everyone has a great rest of the flex week and see everyone tomorrow at the open house. What is it called properly? Open day. Excuse me. I'm still new to BC, so still learning the terms. But yeah, thank you, everyone, and please reach out if you have any questions or comments. Take care.